I have noticed that most political campaigns take on a personality of their own. My race for the Idaho State Legislature against Kelly Packer is no exception to that rule. And really, the personality can be boiled down to one single word: Constitution. The Constitution of the United States is what separates Kelly Packer and myself. The Idaho Freedom Foundation puts together something called a Freedom Index. And the Freedom Index for 2014 is very interesting and very telling. This index scores every legislator in Idaho based on their voting record. Now, the average Republican score is plus 1.8. The average Democrat score is minus 70.9. So we have a 73-point spread between the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, here's the interesting part. Kelly Packer's score is minus 61. She is barely 10 points above the Democrats. She calls herself a conservative Republican, and yet her score is just 10 points away from the Democrats. This places her clearly in the camp of those who are most liberal, most progressive. This also puts her nearly 63 points below the average Republican score. 63 points! She is not voting with the Republican Party at all. She is not voting with the Conservative Party at all. Her votes tell the tale. And if you want to know what she stands for, look at her record. It is clear. Now, my position is rather basic. I know that when we follow the Constitution, that this country, this state, will never dig a hole so deep that we can't climb out. I am running for the Idaho House of Representatives because Kelly Packer does not follow these principles. Obamacare, Common Core, abortion, the federal ownership of our state lands, and many other things are clear violations of the Constitution, but I want to focus on three right now: Obamacare, Common Core, and abortion. Kelly Packer violated the Constitution when she followed a federal edict and established the Idaho Healthcare Exchange in support of the unconstitutional Obama healthcare program. And in doing this, she gave the federal government unconstitutional control in our lives. Kelly Packer violated the Constitution when she supported Common Core on her homepage. She did this in support of federal control of our local schools. And again, she gave the federal government control over our personal lives. Kelly Packer violated the Constitution when she forced all who purchase health care insurance through the exchange to purchase coverage for medical abortions. In doing this, she showed more support for Obamacare, and she acted in direct violation to our constitutional right of freedom of religion. Time and time again, I have asked Kelly Packer to constitutionally justify her actions with regard to Obamacare, Common Core, and abortion. She remains silent. I would like to quote briefly from the Declaration of Independence. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them to absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government. You see, Kelly had another choice. She could have fought. She should have fought. She had a duty to fight against the tyranny of the federal government. Instead, she backed down. I would like to paint you a little picture to help you understand how I see the problems we face. Imagine, if you will, that someone you love, maybe a family member, is dying from 1,000 cuts. Now, these cuts individually aren't really serious. The bleeding from any one cut isn't enough to be fatal. But combined, They are literally a hemorrhage that is draining the life from the person that you love. And so you rush them to the emergency room. And they rush your loved one into a treatment room. And the doctors rush in and the nurses rush in. And you wait. You pace. You wait some more. And you wonder and you pray. Finally, when you can't wait any longer, you sneak past the nurse and step into the treatment room. You're shocked at what you see. The slasher, the person who made all the cuts, is still in the room, and he's slashing and stabbing. The bleeding isn't better, it's worse than it was when you arrived at the hospital. And the doctors and the nurses, they're gathered around, and they're debating something, and as you step closer, you realize they're standing around a large open box of neon-colored Band-Aids. And they're bickering, and they're fighting, and they're debating, because they can't decide what color of Band-Aid will work best in this situation. And all the while, nothing has been done to stop the slasher. Nothing has been done to slow the bleeding. What does this have to do with our country? Well, the slasher is federal government run amok. The slasher is the federal government that passes laws without any constitutional consideration. And each law bleeds the life from our country. Now, individually, they may not seem like much, but when you pile them up, we see massive debt. We see massive dependence on government handouts. We see massive stupidity at every turn. And so now, it's not your loved one on the table, it is your beloved country, my beloved country. And as we step into the treatment room, we see those that we have placed in a position to heal our country. Our senators, our representatives, our governors, our president. And they are standing around this box of multicolored Band-Aids, bickering about how they can apply Band-Aids to fix these massive problems. They're doing nothing to stop the slashing. They're doing nothing to stop the hemorrhage. Instead, they select a pretty green bandage. And they say, oh, this would look really pretty as the healthcare exchange, where we endorse and support an unconstitutional president. They select a bright yellow bandage and they say, ooh, we can use this to allow the federal government to mandate our education and tell us how to teach our children. They pick out a bright orange one and they think, nice. We can use this to violate the people of Idaho's right to honor their own religion. And the end result is we just go further down the drain and we are bleeding to death. Now, according to the Declaration of Independence, Kelly Packer should have led the people in a fight against federal tyranny. She should have stood up and declared that we will not allow this. You see, the Constitution is really amazing in its structure. It protects us horizontally and vertically, if you will. The horizontal protections are the three branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And the legislative is broken up into two houses. It's organized in such a way that when one branch steps out of line, the other branches are supposed to step in and say no and block this unconstitutional activity. But what happens when all three are in bed together? This is when the states, respectively, and the people become the final check and balance for government. We are the vertical protections. We are the last chance for liberty if we have the courage to do our duty. This is the reality we have today. This is when those words from the Declaration of Independence apply. This is when we must throw off such governments. And we do that by opposing, by nullifying unconstitutional law that is thrust on us. So why am I running for the House of Representatives? I'm running because when I stepped into the treatment room and examined what was happening, I saw Kelly Packer staring down into a box of neon-colored Band-Aids, mesmerized by all the pretty colors. I'm Lance Earl. I'll see you soon.